My name is Courtney Davis, and I'm 30 years old. Growing up, my family always saw me as the invisible one, the kid who just faded into the background. My younger brother was the star. He got everything: new cars, private schools, endless praise, while I was just the other kid, scraping by, having to constantly prove myself. I never let it break me, though. I worked hard, built something big, something they couldn't ignore. But at our family's Christmas dinner in Denver last winter, everything just exploded. My brother found out what I'd achieved, that I was worth $28 million, and he just lost it, screaming in front of everyone. My mom joined in, yelling to defend him, while my dad just sat there, completely silent. That night changed everything. What happened next? It's a story of betrayal, lies, and standing up for what's mine. Stick around to see how it all went down. If you're hooked on this family drama, smash that subscribe button and hit the bell to catch every twist. Growing up in Denver, I was constantly being compared to my brother. I'm Courtney Davis, and for as long as I can remember, my family treated me like the spare kid, the one who didn't shine. My brother, on the other hand, was their golden child. He got a shiny new car at 16, private school tuition paid without a blink, and constant praise for every little thing he did. Meanwhile, I was working shifts at a local coffee shop, steaming milk and scrubbing counters just to cover my college tuition. My mom would always say, "Why can't you be more like him?" And my dad just nodded along, never stepping in to defend me. They called me the plain one, like I was some background character in their story. I wasn't lazy, though. I studied computer science at a state school, stayed up late coding, and landed an internship at a small tech firm. It wasn't glamorous, but I loved it, building apps, solving problems. My family, however, didn't seem to care. At holiday dinners, they'd fawn over my brother's half-baked ideas, while I sat quietly, my work dismissed as just some computer stuff. My cousin would smirk, chiming in with, "At least he's going places." My mom would beam, and I'd bite my tongue, holding back what I wanted to say. By my mid-20s, I'd started my own software company. I poured everything into it: nights, weekends, every dime I earned. It was growing fast, but I kept that quiet. My family didn't need to know. They'd never asked about my life anyway. They were just too busy cheering for their star. I wasn't chasing their approval anymore. I was building something for myself. Still, their words stung. Every plain one jab, every comparison. My friend Kristen, who I met in college, saw it all. She'd roll her eyes when my mom bragged about my brother's latest scheme, whispering, "They have no idea who you are." I didn't realize how deep their favoritism ran until I got older. My mom paid for my brother's European gap year, his business school applications, even his apartment rent when he needed space to think. Me? I got a lecture about pulling myself up by my own bootstraps. My dad stayed silent as usual, letting my mom run the whole show. Once, I overheard my brother's girlfriend laughing with my cousin about how I'd never amount to much. It hurt, but I used it as fuel. My company was my focus, my code, my team, my vision. I wasn't going to let their doubts define me. Looking back, those years really shaped me. I learned to rely on myself, to trust my own path. Kristen was my rock, always pushing me to keep going. She'd become a lawyer by then, sharp and loyal, the kind of friend who'd call out nonsense without hesitation. My family, though, they were completely blind to my hustle. They saw my brother as the future, the one who'd carry the family name. I was just the sister who paid her own way, who didn't need their spotlight. But that was fine. I was building something bigger than they could even imagine. Last winter, I went to my parents' house in Denver for Christmas dinner. The table was packed with relatives, the air thick with chatter and clinking glasses. I sat quietly picking at my food while my brother Zachary held court. He was all smiles, boasting about his new real estate project, some flashy development he swore would change Denver. My mom beamed, hanging on his every word. "That's my boy," she said, her voice dripping with pride. "He's got big plans." My cousin Erica nodded along, tossing in compliments like confetti. I stayed silent, used to being ignored, but their voices were starting to grate on me. Then my mom turned to me, her smile gone. "Courtney, still messing around with those computers?" she asked, her tone sharp, as if my job was just a hobby. Erica snickered and Zachary leaned back, smirking. Something just snapped inside me. I set my fork down, looked her straight in the eye and said, "Actually, Mom, my software company's worth $28 million. The room just froze. Erica's jaw dropped. My dad's fork hovered midair. Zachary's face twisted, his eyes narrowing like I'd stolen something from him. You! He spat, his voice loud enough to make the table shake. 28 million! That's a lie. His chair scraped as he stood, fists clenched. You've never done anything big in your life. My mom jumped in, her voice shrill. Zachary's right. How could you have that kind of money? You're just you. Her words cut, but I didn't flinch. I leaned forward, calm but firm. It's true, I built it. Every cent. Zachary's face turned bright red. He slammed his hand on the table, shouting, You're making this up just to humiliate me. Plates rattled and my cousin gasped. My mom kept going, her voice rising. Courtney, stop this nonsense. You're upsetting your brother. She pointed at me, her eyes flashing with anger, as if I'd betrayed the family by succeeding. My dad just sat there saying nothing, his face blank. I wanted him to speak up, to say something, anything, but he just looked away, like always. Erica tried to lighten the mood, mumbling, Well, that's unexpected. But Zachary wasn't done. He paced behind the table, muttering about how I didn't deserve it, how I must have just lucked out or cheated someone. My mom nodded, her arms crossed, still glaring at me. I could have explained, told them about the years of coding, the sleepless nights, the deals I'd closed. But they didn't want to hear it. They never had. Zachary's girlfriend, sitting next to him, looked uncomfortable, her eyes darting between us. She didn't say a word, just sipped her wine. I stood up, my voice steady. Believe what you want, Zachary. It's real. He stopped pacing, staring at me like he could burn a hole right through me. You'll regret this, he hissed, his voice low and venomous. My mom chimed in again, nearly shouting. You owe your brother an apology, Courtney. He's worked so hard. I almost laughed. Worked hard? He'd been handed everything, but I didn't argue. I just sat back down, letting their words wash over me. The dinner went on, but the air was heavy, every glance loaded with tension. A few weeks after the dinner, my phone was flooded with texts from Catherine. Courtney, we need to talk, she wrote, her messages piling up like a storm. Your brother needs your help. It's family. I stared at the screen, my stomach twisting. She wasn't asking, she was demanding. Zachary followed with his own texts, all charm and false confidence. Sis, my real estate project's a game changer. You're in, right? We're family. I didn't reply, but the pressure kept coming. Every day, new messages, each one leaning harder on family loyalty. It felt like a script, like they'd rehearsed it. I tried to brush it off, focusing on my company, but Mom wouldn't let up. She called one evening, her voice sharp. Courtney, you've got money now. It's your duty to support Zachary. He's got vision. I gripped the phone, my jaw tight. Mom, I worked for every penny. He can do the same, she scoffed, as if I'd insulted her. You're so selfish, she snapped. Your brother deserves a chance. I hung up, my hands shaking. Her words echoed, but I wasn't buying the guilt trip. Then Dad got involved. He called, his tone soft, almost pleading. Courtney, let's find a middle ground, he said. Maybe you could invest a little, keep the peace. I wanted to believe he meant well, but it felt like just another push to give in. I told him no, firmly. Dad, I'm not funding Zachary's dreams. He sighed, mumbling about family unity. But I could tell he was out of his depth. Days later, I heard he tried to talk to Mom and Zachary, urging them to back off. It didn't work. That's when things got really ugly. Erica, my cousin, posted on Twitter calling Dad spineless for not standing up to me. William just lets Courtney walk all over the family, she tweeted, tagging all the relatives. Other cousins piled on, posting snide comments about how Dad was too weak to handle me. I scrolled through the thread, my chest tight. They were trashing him publicly, all because he'd tried to mediate. It wasn't just about him. It was a message to me. Play along, or we'll tear you down too. The texts didn't stop. Zachary sent a long one, dripping with fake sincerity. Courtney, I know you're mad, but this project could put our family on the map. Don't you want that? I could almost hear his smirk. Mom's messages turned colder, accusing me of turning my back on them. You think you're better than us now? She wrote. I didn't respond, but each word hit like a jab. I started avoiding family group chats, muting notifications, but the pressure just seeped through. Even at work, I'd catch myself rereading their messages, second-guessing my choice to stand firm. One night, I vented to a coworker over coffee. "They're acting like I owe them," I said, my voice low. She nodded, saying, "Families can get weird about money." It wasn't just the money, though. It was their need to control me, to keep me as the plain one who didn't outshine Zachary. The Twitter posts kept coming, with Erica retweeting snarky memes about greedy siblings. I wasn't named, but everyone knew who they meant. My phone buzzed constantly, cousins and aunts chiming in, painting me as the villain. I tried talking to Dad again, hoping he'd step up. "They're dragging you online," I said. "Why don't you say something?" He sounded tired. "Courtney, I don't know how to fix this." His voice cracked, and I felt a pang of guilt, but also frustration. He'd always been so passive, letting Mom and Zachary run the show. I hung up, realizing he wouldn't fight back. The family's tactics were clear: guilt me into giving in or shame me into submission. But I wasn't bending. I'd built my life without their help, and I wasn't about to let them take it. In the spring, an email from Eric Stone, an investor, landed in my inbox. The subject line read, "Regarding Davis Properties." I frowned, confused. I'd never even heard of Davis Properties. The email was polite, but urgent, asking for a meeting to discuss my involvement in a real estate venture Zachary was pitching. My heart sank as I read further. Eric mentioned a prospectus with my name listed as a key partner, claiming I'd backed the project with millions. My name, my reputation, used without my consent. I called Kristen, my friend and a lawyer, that very same afternoon. "Something's really wrong," I told her, forwarding the email. "Zachary is using my name for some real estate deal." Kristen didn't hesitate. "Send me everything you've got," she said, her voice steady. I dug through my inbox, finding more clues. Promotional emails for Davis Properties, all touting my support. One even had a fake bio calling me a silent investor in Zachary's vision. I felt sick. This wasn't just pressure, it was outright deception. Kristen came over to my office the next day, her laptop open, already pulling records. "They've set up a company," she said, showing me filings from the Colorado Secretary of State. Davis Properties was registered under Zachary's name, with Catherine listed as a co-founder. My name appeared in their marketing materials, specifically tied to my software company's success. "They're leveraging your reputation to lure investors," Kristen explained. She'd found emails between Zachary and Eric where Zachary implied I'd already committed funds. It was a complete lie, and they'd built it all around me. I couldn't believe Catherine was in on it. "Mom knew?" I asked Kristen, my voice tight. She nodded, pointing to a forwarded email from Catherine to Zachary, urging him to use Courtney's name. "It'll open doors." I stared at the screen, my chest heavy. My own mother, plotting to exploit me. I thought back to her texts, her calls about family loyalty. It wasn't about love. It was about control. About cashing in on my hard work. Kristen kept digging, pulling up contracts sent to investors. They were sloppy fakes with forged signatures mimicking mine. "This is fraud," she said, her eyes narrowing. "We can nail them." She spent days cross-referencing documents, tracking email trails, and contacting Eric's team for more evidence. Eric was furious when Kristen explained I hadn't authorized anything. "I trusted your brother," he told me over the phone. "He said you were fully on board." I apologized, my face burning with shame, even though I'd done absolutely nothing wrong. Then came the real gut punch. Kristen found a text chain between Zachary and Dad, forwarded to her by a contact at Eric's firm. Dad had written, "This doesn't feel right, Zachary. Tell Courtney." Zachary's reply was cold. "She'll never know. Dad, stay out of it." My dad knew. He'd known they were using my name, and he did nothing. I called him that night, my voice shaking. "Dad, you saw what they were doing. Why didn't you stop them?" He mumbled, "I thought they'd tell you eventually." His words stung worse than Mom's. He wasn't just passive, he was complicit. I sat in my office late that night, staring at the evidence Kristen had compiled. Emails, contracts, even a slick website for Davis Properties with my name plastered all over it. I felt betrayed not just by Zachary and Catherine, but by Dad's silence. Kristen put a hand on my shoulder. "We've got enough to expose them," she said. "But you need to decide what's next." I nodded, my mind racing. They'd crossed a line, using my name to scam people. I wasn't just angry, I was done letting them walk all over me. Early that summer, I decided to put an end to it. Kristen and I had enough evidence to bury Zachary's entire scheme, and I sure wasn't going to let him hide behind my name any longer. We sat in my office, finalizing a dossier filled with emails, fake contracts, and screenshots of the Davis Properties website, all proving they'd used my reputation to deceive investors. Kristen sent the packet to Eric, who was livid, but ultimately grateful. "This is solid," he said over the phone. "I'm pulling my funds and alerting my partners." She also forwarded the evidence to a lawyer she trusted, who agreed to review it for potential legal action. I wasn't ready to sue, not yet, but I wanted them to know I wasn't bluffing. I needed to face my family directly. I called a meeting at my parents' house in Denver, telling Mom it was urgent family business. She agreed, probably thinking I'd cave on their investment demands. When I arrived, the living room was filled with tense energy. Zachary lounged on the couch, smirking like he'd already won. Catherine sat stiffly, her eyes narrowing as I set a stack of papers on the coffee table. Dad stood by the window, carefully avoiding my gaze. I took a deep breath and started. "Zachary, Catherine, you've been using my name to pitch a real estate company," I said, my voice steady. I slid the dossier forward, open to a forged contract with my signature. "This is fraud. You lied to investors, claiming I backed you." Zachary's smirk vanished. He leaned forward, his face pale. "That's not true," he stammered. "It's just marketing." I cut him off, pointing to an email from him to Eric. "You told investors I'd put in millions." "I never agreed to that." Catherine jumped in, her voice sharp. "Courtney, you're blowing this completely out of proportion. We were just trying to help Zachary succeed." I held up a hand, not breaking eye contact. "Help him? You put my name on a website, forged my signature, and lied to people. That's not helping, that's stealing." She flinched, but quickly doubled down. "Your family, you should want to support us." Her words were desperate, almost pleading, but I wasn't swayed. I'd heard that line too many times. Dad finally spoke, his voice low. "Courtney, maybe we can just work this out quietly." I turned to him, my frustration boiling over. "Dad, you knew, and you didn't stop them. There's no working this out. They broke my trust." He looked away, his shoulders slumping. Zachary tried another angle, his tone softer. "Sis, we didn't mean any harm. Let's just partner up for real. We'll make it big together." I almost laughed. His charm was as fake as his contracts. I pushed the dossier toward them. "Every page is another nail in your scheme. Eric's already pulling out," I said. "His lawyers have this evidence. Other investors will get it too." Zachary's eyes widened, his hand shaking as he flipped through the papers. "You're trying to ruin me," he shouted, standing up. I stayed calm, my voice cold. "You did that yourself, Zachary. You used my name. Now you face the consequences." Catherine clutched his arm, whispering something, but he yanked away, glaring at me. I stood, gathering my papers. "I'm not investing, and I'm not staying silent. Fix this, or the lawyers will." I walked out, leaving them in stunned silence. Kristen was waiting in the car, her expression grim but proud. "You did it," she said as I got in. I nodded, my heart still racing. I'd drawn a clear line, and there was absolutely no going back. They'd underestimated me for years, but I wasn't their plain one anymore. By late summer, news about Zachary was spreading all over Denver. Eric had officially pulled his investment from Davis Properties, and word got out fast. Investors started backing out one after another as the truth about the forged documents surfaced. Zachary's name was dragged through the mud on local business forums, with posts calling him a fraud. His bank accounts were frozen, pending an investigation, and his so-called empire just crumbled overnight. I didn't gloat. I just watched it all unfold, feeling a mix of relief and exhaustion. Catherine called me a week later, her voice trembling. "Courtney, we made a mistake," she said, almost whispering. "Please, let's just fix this, as a family." I held the phone, my grip tight. "Mom, you used my name to trick people. There's no fixing that." She started crying, saying she only wanted to help Zachary succeed. I wasn't moved. Her tears just felt like another attempt to pull me back into their mess. "You made your choice," I told her, my tone flat. "Now, live with it." I hung up, my heart heavy but resolute. Zachary's girlfriend, Brandy, was next to jump ship. I heard through a mutual friend that she'd packed her bags and left him, completely unwilling to stick around for the fallout. Apparently, she'd called him a sinking ship and walked out without looking back. The family was in complete chaos. My cousin texted me, blaming me for tearing everyone apart. Another relative posted on Twitter, claiming I'd betrayed them. I ignored it all. Their drama simply wasn't my problem anymore. Dad reached out, leaving a voicemail. "Courtney, I should have done more," he said, his voice sounding incredibly tired. "I'm so sorry." I listened to it twice, waiting for some spark of forgiveness to ignite within me, but it just didn't come. He'd stood by while they used me, and that silence spoke louder than his words ever could now. I didn't call him back. Instead, I blocked his number, along with Mom's and Zachary's. My phone went quiet for the first time in months, and I felt a huge weight lift off my shoulders. I threw myself back into my company, working late nights with my team to push out new software updates. The office was my refuge, a place where I called the shots, and nobody questioned my worth. My employees didn't care about my family's mess. They cared about the code we wrote and the clients we won. We landed a major deal with a tech firm in Boulder, and for the first time in a while, I smiled without having to force it. My success wasn't tied to their approval anymore, and that finally felt like true freedom. The news about Zachary kept spreading. A local paper ran a story about failed real estate ventures in Denver, mentioning his name alongside alleged misrepresentations. I didn't read past the headline because I simply didn't need to. His own actions had finally caught up with him. Catherine sent one last text, begging me to meet her. "We're still family," she wrote. I deleted it without even replying. Family doesn't forge your name or drag you through the mud just for saying no. I heard from a distant cousin that Zachary was scrambling to save face, pitching new ideas to absolutely anyone who'd even listen, but nobody was biting. His reputation was completely shot, and the family's golden boy was just another name in a bad news cycle. Meanwhile, I was finally moving forward. My company hit a new milestone, and I celebrated with my team, not my blood relatives. They'd tried their best to pull me down, but I was still standing tall. In the fall, I stood in my brand new apartment in downtown Denver, the city skyline just glowing through the windows. The space was entirely mine, bought with my own money and with absolutely no strings attached. I had spent the last year untangling myself from my family's suffocating grip, and now, as I looked out at the dazzling lights, I felt a quiet, unwavering strength growing within me. The journey certainly hadn't been easy, but it taught me invaluable lessons that I'll carry with me forever about standing up for myself, protecting what I've so painstakingly built, and recognizing the devastating cost of manipulation. I used to think that family was all about loyalty, no matter what the circumstances. But blind loyalty doesn't mean letting people use you and abuse you. My mother, Catherine, and my brother, Zachary, thought they could freely exploit my success to prop up their own increasingly desperate dreams. They saw my hard work as nothing more than a tool, not as a hard-earned triumph. I learned the incredibly important lesson that family isn't some sort of free pass to betray trust and decency. It's a profound bond that demands respect, not just blind devotion without question. When they crossed that line, forging my signature and dragging me into their deceptive schemes, I had no choice but to draw a very firm boundary. It certainly wasn't about some petty revenge. It was solely about self-respect and self-preservation. Protecting what I'd so painstakingly built became my unwavering mantra. My software company, now absolutely thriving with new contracts and a constantly growing team, was clear proof that I didn't need their validation, nor did I ever. I'd spent countless years coding, pitching, and sacrificing, all while they dismissed me as the plain one, as if I were invisible. Their betrayal certainly stung, there was no denying that. But it also clarified what truly mattered to me: my work, my integrity, and my steadfast independence. I finally stopped seeking their elusive approval, something I desperately craved for so long without even fully realizing it. The very moment I let that unrealistic expectation go, I felt truly free for the first time in my adult life. Manipulation always has a very steep price, and I sadly watched it play out in their own broken lives. Zachary's insatiable ambition ultimately blinded him, leading to a series of lies that cost him his reputation and his financial security. Catherine's overpowering need to control pushed her to desperately justify his increasingly questionable actions, even when they were obviously wrong and harmful. Dad's deafening silence, his complete refusal to stand up to them and do the right thing, ultimately left him isolated and alone in their self-made chaos. Their incredibly poor choices unraveled their own fragile world, but they wouldn't define mine. I learned that people who constantly manipulate others often end up trapping themselves, desperately chasing short-term wins at the great expense of long-term trust and genuine connection. I absolutely wouldn't let their mistakes define the entire trajectory of my own life. My company became my unwavering focus. We proudly launched a new product, a cutting-edge software platform that streamlined business operations, and it took off faster than I had even dared to hope. Clients from every corner of the country were reaching out to us, and my team was working late into the night, practically buzzing with excitement and a shared sense of purpose. I quickly realized I needed to bring on more developers to keep up with the demand, so I hired several new talented individuals. We moved into a bigger, more modern office space, and I watched our company valuations steadily climb. Every milestone we hit served as a potent reminder that my personal worth and value weren't intrinsically tied to my family's opinion of me or their expectations. I had single-handedly built this company, and no one, regardless of their name or influence, could ever take that accomplishment away from me. Living independently wasn't just about severing ties and creating physical distance from my family. It was about intentionally creating a life that felt genuinely authentic and true to myself. I made a conscious effort to surround myself with people who valued me for my skills, my work ethic, and my contributions, not for my last name or any perceived social standing. Kristen, my close friend and lawyer, stood steadfastly by me through it all, consistently offering sound advice and unwavering support without ever expecting anything in return. My team gradually evolved into a kind of chosen family, one that was intentionally built on a foundation of mutual respect, trust, and genuine appreciation for each other's contributions. I started hosting regular dinners at my apartment, filled with laughter, stimulating conversation, and the exciting exchange of ideas, a stark contrast to the drama, guilt trips, and passive-aggressive comments that had previously characterized my family gatherings. For the first time in my life, I genuinely felt at home and comfortable in my own skin, truly accepting and embracing who I was. I realized I no longer craved or needed my family's validation or recognition to feel complete. I started to hear whispers and rumors that Catherine was still actively trying to fix things, relentlessly reaching out to various relatives and acquaintances in an attempt to paint me as the source of all the problems and family dysfunction. Apparently, Zachary was still pitching new business ventures left and right, but it seemed like no one really trusted him or his judgment anymore. Dad, as always, remained characteristically quiet and detached from the situation. I made a conscious decision not to check their social media profiles or answer any of their phone calls. Their world was theirs to navigate and deal with as they saw fit, and I resolved to focus my energy and attention on my own life, the life that I had painstakingly carved out for myself. I wasn't harboring any anger or resentment anymore, just a profound sense of being completely done with the whole situation. Standing in my apartment, gazing out at the city lights, I reflected on everything I had gained throughout this process. It wasn't just the professional success and financial independence. It was the invaluable sense of clarity and self-awareness that I had acquired. I had learned to trust my own instincts, to fiercely guard and protect my achievements, and, perhaps most importantly, to walk away from those individuals who would rather take than give, those who consistently sought to drain my energy and undermine my confidence. Manipulation might offer the promise of quick rewards and short-term gains, but I recognize that it always leaves behind a long and destructive trail of broken bonds and damaged relationships. I made a conscious and deliberate choice to embrace a different path, one characterized by hard work, unwavering honesty, and genuine independence. As the dazzling city lights sparkled and shimmered outside my window, I knew without a shadow of a doubt that I had made it through the storm, and I had emerged stronger, more resilient, and more self-assured than ever before.